in this week's Two Wheels Better, I check out performance engine tuning, and a solicitor talks about accidents. But first, here's Jeff Stone by the seaside.
This is December, and this is Brighton, but we're not here to play down on the beach or splash around in the waves. We're here for a speedway meeting. But it's not just any old speedway, this is indoor speedway. Well, here we are actually down on the track, made of shale. But just what is shale? I'll show you. Where it's being pushed over to one side over here after the rolling and the tractor's gone round, it's nothing compared with what the bikes are going to do to it. It's just a crushed rock, and they use the same sort of stuff in the foundation of roads. But if you left it just as a loose rock like that, you'd spray everyone in it. So you've got to dampen it down. So they get the old sprinklers out and dampen it down.
The very first dirt track meeting was held in America in 1902, and then the Aussies developed it into Speedway in 1926, which might just explain why we get so many Americans and Australians over here racing. In 1928, the first UK meeting was held at High Beach in Epping. Now, nearly 60 years later, Speedways come in from the cold, and we have the first indoor racing on shale. Nigel, tell me, how did all this come about? You know, using the sort of plush surroundings of the Brighton Centre. Why was this?
Well, a few of us had got together over the winter, and we thought that Speedway needed something like this. Traditionally, the sport runs from a period of March through to October, and during the winter months, Speedway fans are obviously desperate for somewhere to go and watch Speedway, so we thought, hey, let's put on an indoor event.
Just like that. And how on earth did you convert it? I mean, there was a party here last night, wasn't there? But you had to convert it and bring all this shale in. How do you go about that?
That's right. There was a local radio station held their Christmas party here last night, and there were several live performances by bands. We gained access to the arena at 1 o'clock, and we've been working ever since on laying the surface.
You're looking well on it, I must say. And what's going to happen after? Because there's a concert with the Prodigy, isn't there, tomorrow night?
That's right. We have to have the whole track taken out and everything moved out by 2 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Oh, so you're going to be a really busy guy. So tell me, what was your interest in Speedway anyway? Have you been a rider yourself?
No. I've been helping a rider who's actually taking part in the event today on a regular basis, and so my interest came from that.
Yeah, and is he a local rider then?
No, actually he's from Sweden. His name's Stefan Andersson, and I've been mechanicking for him now for the past year.
And you're saying that, I mean, Sweden, that's just one of the countries represented, but I know you've got people from the States, and they're from all over, aren't they?
Yes, we have the world champion Greg Hancock, who's come in from California. We have Craig Boyce and Shane Parker from Australia, and former world champion Sam Ermolenko, also from California.
Yeah, so you've done very, very well in attracting people. But this is a one-off match, isn't it? This isn't any part of any league or World Series. This is just a one-off?
Yes, it certainly is, but we're hoping that it's a forerunner of many more events to come.
OK, well, thanks very much, Nigel.
No problem.
Something very, very different, a Honda Speedway bike, and Mick Grant here is the guy whose fault it is. Well, I shouldn't say it's your fault, should I?
Well, yeah, we had this idea about 6 weeks ago that Speedway seemed to be going nowhere quick. Clubs are running out of money, it isn't making sense, and what we thought it needed was a bike that we could have with a controlled engine that would be very cheap to run, with the same horsepower that everyone would have, and the concept we've got is what you see here now.
Yeah, and this looks very much like a trail bike engine. It's a standard road engine, is it? Or trail engine?
It's an absolutely standard Honda road engine. It's a 650 engine, which is a wee bit bigger than they would normally have. But it gives enough horsepower. It hasn't as much horsepower as the modern bikes at this meeting, but it's as much horsepower as the bikes in the 70s when Speedway was successful.
Yeah, and so you're running this on methanol, though, aren't you, in league with all the others?
No, we're certainly not. We're on green fuel, so it's user-friendly.
Oh, right. Oh, that's very good with the Kyoto conference being there. That'll go down well. And tell me, how's this system going to work then? Will people be able to buy a complete bike, a Honda bike or a Honda engine, or how's it going to work?
Well, the BSBA must first of all decide whether they want to use the engine as a thing next year. If they did, it would be called the Honda Cup. Obviously Honda would supply the engines, the chassis builders would then build the chassis, and it would go from there really.
Right, and so everyone will be on a level footing then?
Absolutely. I think one of the problems at the minute is if you've got a lot of sponsorship, then you've got a big head start. If this concept was actually tried and tested, the guy coming in at a novice level or the world champion would have exactly the same horsepower. I'm sure the same guys are going to win, but it's going to be more exciting.
Greg, congratulations first off on becoming world champion. And what are you doing here? Is this a special trip for you back to Brighton?
Yeah, it is actually. I was in Helsinki yesterday for the FIM prize giving ceremony, where I received my gold medal for the World Championship this year. And it just so happened I was able to make a short jaunt over here to England on my way back to America to do this meeting. And I'm pretty happy to be here. It's a great venue.
Well, that's good. You've been out in one or two of the heats. How are you finding the circuit? It's very tight, isn't it?
It's really tight. I mean, it's not something that we're very used to riding on, and we're still really trying to get used to it at the moment. The track's tearing up just slightly, but you know what? For a one-off event, it's holding up really well, and it's some pretty spectacular racing.
But at least you haven't been disqualified yet.
Oh, not yet. You know, I stayed on 2 wheels and haven't really had any accidents, so I'm pretty happy.
Okay, great. Well, look, thanks very much for that, and we'll look forward to seeing you racing later.
Oh, definitely. Look out for it, and I hope that I can win something.
Now, Shawn, I understand you're a bit of a stunt rider these days.
Well, yeah, stunts, motorcycles, cars, a little bit.
Is that safer than speedway riding?
For the most part, but you know, it does have its days.
Yeah, I can well imagine. So what are you doing over here? Is this just a guest appearance you've come over here?
Yeah, basically come over to see all my friends and race some speedway and have a good time, and it's working.
Right. Now, in the past you've raced for Birmingham and Swindon, haven't you?
Yeah, I rode for Birmingham when the team closed, and then I was on loan to Swindon and didn't quite make my 6-point average, so had to go home.
What's the actual attraction with you guys coming over to the UK? Do you find this is the home of Speedway or what?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, to be able to come here and race with the best in the world is just a privilege. I mean, the fact that I'm here, I love it.
Oh, that's good. And how are you finding this circuit in here? It's very, very tight, isn't it?
Yeah, the tightness is pretty fun. It's just the track's going away a bit, makes it a little dangerous, but all the boys are doing really well, and we're all still fit.
Okay, well, we'll see how you get on later. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Kelvin, you're a bit different from all the continental guys coming over here. You're the other way around.
Yeah, I spend most of my time on the continent racing, and in Sweden and in Germany and in Poland. I don't always do so much racing here in England.
Well, why is that?
I was world champion on the long track, and my commitments, it sort of pulled me away rather than, my commitments have sort of gone to the continent rather than here.
And so, why are you back today? You're making just a guest appearance on this one?
Well, it's the off season and I live in Sussex and I was asked to ride, so I'm happy to be here.
And what do you think of it out there?
Well, it's quite hairy for the riders. I'm sure the spectators are having a great time, but it's sort of heart in your mouth stuff.
So there we have it. Nearly 6,000 people have had a spectacular day at the world's first indoor shale-based speedway. But judging from the smiles on people's faces, I've a funny feeling that it certainly won't be the last. Now, we don't see many solicitors at bike shows, so what's a solicitor doing at a bike show?
Well, we're specialist solicitors specialising in accident compensation, and I suppose, Jeff, wherever you've got people and vehicles, inevitably, unfortunately, there are going to be accidents. and we provide a specialist service to recover compensation for accident victims.
So you don't fall into this horrible category, this ambulance chasing thing. Someone's got to phone you, have they?
That's right. We have a free phone number. If we're telephoned, we'll give immediate advice over the telephone.
Right, and if someone on this accident compensation, you must have to interrogate them. They can't just say, this guy knocked me off my bike, but you can quickly sort of sum up as to whether it's worth pursuing?
Yes, in 99% I would say of accidents, they're relatively straightforward, such that with the experience that we have, within a few minutes we can tell them whether they've got a realistic prospect of success.
And have you seen a growth in this business? I mean, is business booming?
Well, unfortunately, I have to confess that it is, but I don't think the accidents are increasing. I think that people's awareness of the right to compensation is increasing.
Yeah, which has got to be a good thing.
That's right. I think road safety has generally increased, and people are, I think, much more safety conscious these days.
This is a very, very fast bike. It's a Suzuki GSXR 1100, but would you believe for some people it's nowhere near fast enough? So what do you do? Well, what many people do is they buy a Dynajet kit which optimises the carburation, and they stick an end can on, which also makes it sound a bit better and might help to make it just perform a little bit better. But if you want real performance from your bike, and especially if you're a racer, you come to a place like this, FW Developments in Lancashire, and you wouldn't believe what these lads can do to your engine. And this could be your engine. Not on a GSXR 1100 it couldn't. This is actually a CBR 600 engine. And this is the man here, Frank Wrathall, who's going to turn this into a performance machine. 95 brake horsepower is the standard spec on this, but you're going to turn this, Frank, into something in excess of 112 brake horsepower. So how on earth are you going to do that?
Well, as you can see, the first thing we would do is remove the engine from the chassis. Then we would strip it into component form, clean everything thoroughly, and then modify the certain parts that are responsible for increasing the performance. Basically, the majority of the work we would do on this particular engine, which is used in the Supersport 600 Championship, British Championship this year, we're only allowed to do the majority of the work in the cylinder head. The cylinder head is, in our opinion, where the majority of the power gains are to be had. It's basically a road bike cylinder head, all rough castings with the compression and the clearances set with a wide tolerance purely for safety. One of the first things we would do, we would skim the cylinder head to raise the compression, narrow the squish clearance down, which would basically make the combustion chamber smaller, which would just produce more power, produce a bigger bang if you like.
Exactly.
We would then work on both the inlet and the exhaust ports. This is the exhaust port that we've modified slightly inside. We've changed the shape of it, and then we've gas flowed it to increase the efficiency of the port. We need an optimum gas speed to make the engine run efficiently. We would then modify the inlet port. In this particular instance, we're actually adding material into the inlet port to change the shape completely.
So you've changed the shape, but you've also made that's a smaller inlet port now than it would have been.
It is, yeah. This is to increase the gas speed in this particular.
We're not giving anything away that's top secret here, are we, Frank? No trade secrets.
Might be.
Oh, right, shucks, I should have said that. All right. So they're not smaller, right? Okay.
Yeah, the shape is very, very important.
Okay.
Then we would modify the valve seats. We would grind the valve seats 3 angles onto the valve seats very precisely, and likewise we would modify the valves slightly. We would put 2 angles on the valves to add to increase the flow through the valve when the valve is open between the valve seat and the valve.
But you see, you know, I mean, I remember years ago tinkering about with cars and bikes, and you sit there with your valve grinding paste, and you're doing this, and you're getting it all nicely seated. You don't do any of that nonsense.
No, we do a little bit.
Do you? Yeah. Do you actually sit there with grinding paste?
Yeah, well, not me personally.
No, well, you're the boss. You don't do that.
We would, because we can cut the seats and the valves so accurately. The need for lapping them in for a long period of time is gone. We just a quick lap would be sufficient.
Right, fair enough. Right, so that's the head basically. Camshaft.
Right.
Is there a lot that you do to that?
This actually is a camshaft that we've had modified to our specifications. Again, in this instance, the rules only allow us to change the duration of the valve openings and not the lift. So we're running on a standard lift, but we can change the duration to whatever
by altering the curvature.
Absolutely, the lobe shapes. Yes.
Right.
Again, once we've done all our development, we'll decide on what package we need and how everything works together, and then we'll have them made to our specification.
This is a clever little device. This is the machine that actually hones out the cylinders. So what's that doing there, Frank? Is that it's cleaning the cylinder, is it? Is that right?
It's actually removing very small amounts of material out of the boat and also providing us with a very good surface finish.
Right, okay. It's very physical, isn't it? I know we've seen some of your other machines and it's very manual, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's not kind of, you don't stick it in and it comes out the other end.
Certainly not automatic.
Right, so there is room for human error in this.
There is.
What happens if you get that wrong?
We don't.
So Frank, once you've done all your engineering work and all your manual bits and sat there for hours grinding your ports out, like we've seen, it goes back together, it goes in the chassis, and it comes in here. This is your dyno room. So this, if I might say, doesn't look anything remotely like a CBR 600 to me.
No, this certainly isn't a CBR 600. This is a Kawasaki KX 125 off-road machine, a motocross machine. We actually do an awful lot of two-stroke tuners. We actually do an awful lot of two-stroke tuning, sorry, and this is actually the mainstay of our business.
What, two-strokes? So you do more two-strokes than four-strokes?
Yeah, we do. We do at the moment. Yeah.
Right. Well, go on then. You're the biggest two-stroke tuner in Europe, is that right?
I would think we will be. Yeah.
I think you probably are actually. Yeah. Right. So you come in here and you would put, as the engine we've seen, the CBR 600 on here, and basically, presumably, this tells you whether you've got everything right, does it?
It's basically, this is our quality control room. The engines have to make what we would consider the correct horsepower once they're modified. We have our own standards, and we ensure that every machine we tune, comes up to that particular standard.
Right, and then so this is then you would do your fine tuning here, your carburetor. This is the bit that people, when they talk about bike tuning, would probably be familiar with.
Absolutely, it's a Dynajet dynamometer rolling road where we can actually put the whole machine on, test the whole machine. We're not just testing the engine, we're testing the transmission, how the engine reacts in the chassis, the airbox, the airflow, this sort of thing.
Right, and hopefully at the end of the day it's all spot on.
It's going to be a winner.
It's not just engines that can be tuned. Exhausts are very, very important when it comes to bike performance. Frank, what's this? Are we still in your firm here, by the way? We're in another building now.
We're actually still on site, on our site, but we're in Dave Latham here. We're in his workshop, which is Clock Tower. He manufactures all the exhaust pipes that we use, and we sort of develop them together.
Hang on, he manufactures. Do you make these, Dave? Do you make these? What do you make them from scratch?
Yes, everything's made from scratch in-house, from mild steel, stainless steel or titanium, whichever you require.
So how on earth do you know where to start with an exhaust? I mean, obviously you know what kind of shape it's going to be, but I mean, what do you do to change that? Do you bash it into shape and tweak it and mess with it, or what?
So basically, we talk to the rider, ask him where he wants his power for his machine. We dyno test the bike, see what he's already got, and by lengthening, shortening and varying the angles of the cones, we can give the rider exactly the power delivery he requires.
Right, so this is a supermoto machine, used in Ireland, is it, I believe, is that right?
This is the bike that Paul Bird rode in the Irish Supermoto Championship. He did in fact win the championship this year. Right,
so you obviously got it right on that occasion. But how different is that from the standard exhaust that this bike would have? Is it tremendously different?
This will possibly give him, this particular pipe will give him a lot more drive, but will allow the engine to rev as well, which is what supermoto requires, whereas a motocrosser will require just torque mainly, without the top end revving.
Right. Any idea of how long that it will take you to make an exhaust? If you say, well, I'm going to make an exhaust for this supermoto bike, how long is that going to take? Can you put a time on it?
Well, really, that's one of my trade secrets, but I would say about 3 days to make a system similar to the one you're seeing here.
Right. Well, I can't believe how much there is involved in getting an engine to run to its absolute optimum performance. Frank, you've amazed me. But it's not just bike engines, is it? I mean, I noticed we've got a cart here behind me. So,
yeah, we tune a various selection of vehicles, really, from motorcycles, carts, quads, pilots, jet skis.
Oh yeah. Is there anything you can't tune?
A piano.
Hey, good answer. Yeah. What is it? Well, what's the most unusual thing you've had to tune?
We were asked to tune a chainsaw once.
Was you? What on earth for? You know.
Just some these people that use compete in lumber competitions.
Oh right. So they wanted the fastest chainsaw, did
Absolutely.
they? Well, listen, I was not wrong with that. So how did you start doing this? Have you always been a tinkerer with engines? Did you sit in your shop?
Yeah, I mean, I started tinkering with motorcycles when I was sort of 12, 13 years of age, and ended up racing sidecars in the 1980s.
Right, and had considerable success. Yes, you did. Don't be modest.
Well, we were the 1985 European champions.
Right. Well, that's success enough. So the ultimate for you now, as an engine tuning specialist, must be to see a bike out on the track or on a road race doing well, knowing that you've prepared it. So, go on, tell us some of the famous people that you work for.
We've had numerous British champions over the years. We've had American champions, we've had Australian champions, South African champions, New Zealand champions, Irish champions.
So, give us some names then. So,
names you would know.
Joey Dunlop.
Joey Dunlop.
Yeah.
This year we will be preparing a 500 Grand Prix bike for Scott Smart.
Right. And a few others that you're not going to tell us about, probably.
Lots and lots.
There's lots of trade secrets in this business, isn't there?
Yeah.
I know I've learnt a lot today, but probably not half of what really goes on, I imagine.
You're absolutely right.
So if I was to come to you now, or somebody watching says, I'm going to have that done to my bike, I want my bike to beat the business. So if I bring you my bike and say, make that as good as you can, what's it going to cost me?
If you brought me a four-cylinder, four-stroke road bike, and you wanted the ultimate, you'd be looking in excess of £2,000.
Dear me. Well, it's been nice talking to you, Frank. Start the car. On next week's show, Jeff Stone visits a wheel-making factory in Birmingham. And there's more news and reviews on Two Wheels Better.